Welcome to Pegasus. Today we're going to brew coffee using the pour-over method. And here we have a Hario V60 filter cone. It's one of a number of pour-over devices that are available out there. This one is just a simple ceramic cone. They also come in plastic and glass. We've got a vessel to brew coffee into. We have a scale, which we're going to use to help get consistency in our brew. We'll also talk about using measuring spoons in order to weigh out your coffee. We have a hot water kettle. This one has an built-in PID with temperature control, but you don't need something this fancy. We have our BURR grinder over here. And of course, we've got some filters. So we use the pour-over method to get really clean cups of coffee. The combination of pouring water manually over the coffee grounds and extracting it through a filter is going to give a really clean flavor. This is great for accentuating the flavors and uncovering the flavors of nuanced coffees. Today I've chosen our San Jose Poaquil. This is a bag from the roaster. And this is a coffee that's grown in Guatemala that's got some incredible classic coffee flavors like chocolate and nuts, as well as some really delicate floral and fruit flavors. This is a coffee that's pretty ideal for pour-over method. So I'm going to set up my scale with a little vessel to hold my coffee beans, and I'm going to tare my scale. Today we're going to use a recipe that's 40 grams of coffee to 670 milliliters of water. So when we talk about recipes in coffee, it's how much coffee are you using? How are you grinding your coffee beans? How much water are you using? What temperature are you using for your brew water? And then what is the method that you're going to use to pass that water through your coffee? We're going to use a ratio of 1 gram of coffee to 16.7 grams of water. You can adjust that ratio and you can adjust recipes to your taste, but this is one that we found that sits right in the middle, extracts some really beautiful flavors from our more complex coffees, but is also suited for fuller body coffees. So I'm weighing out 40 grams of beans. I've got a little bit extra. That's fine because there tends to be a little bit of coffee that gets stuck in the grinder. And to prep, I'm going to start my water. That'll be boiling in a few minutes. So our water's just come to a boil. That means it's time to grind our coffee beans. I'm going to pop these into the hopper and press start. While that's grinding, I'm going to go ahead and rinse that filter. Don't need to use very much water, just enough to get the filter wet. Give it a minute to drain. And I'm going to pour that water out. And that has warmed up my brewing vessel nicely. I can fill that on the cone as well. So I've got my brewing vessel, my filter cone, and my filter all in place. I'm taring my scale, so it should read 0 now. And I'm weighing in 40 grams of coffee. If you're using a scoop at home, most coffee scoops are either 1 or 2 tablespoons, and they're going to give you somewhere between 7 and 8 grams per tablespoon of ground coffee. .5, that'll work. And now that I've tapped my grounds into there, I'm just going to give it a little shake to give me a level brew bed. I'm going to refer to this ground coffee in the filter cone as the brew bed. And it's important to have it level because we're taking a number of steps here to get even extraction, even wetting of the coffee bed. We're just off of the boil, and we're going to start our timer. We're going for an overall time of hopefully between 4 and 5 minutes. Our first pour is going to be 100 grams. So I'm pouring straight into the brew bed. Look at that nice even stream I want a consistent stream to hit the coffee grounds, and once it starts to fill, I'm going to start moving in a circular motion, so I'm dispersing that water throughout the brew bed. I've gone a little bit over. The more precise you are, the better, but there's also a lot of room for flexibility and forgiveness in this brewing method. I'm going to take my spoon and just give a little stir around a few times. I'm breaking up any clumps of dry coffee that might be in the brew bed. That's to reduce what we call channeling. And channeling happens when one area of the brew bed gets wet and the water continues to pass through that area while missing areas where there are dry coffee grounds. With a spoon, if we break up the brew bed a little bit, we'll disperse any clumps and allow the water to evenly permeate the coffee bed. Now, at about a minute, and again, I'm taking my time here, I'm going to start pouring again. And we're going to do a total of 5 pours. So this next pour is going to bring us up to 250 grams. I'm pouring into the middle and then moving out a little bit. When I started doing this, I was pretty sloppy and I was probably doing something more like a triangle to help get the motion. But over time, that swirl will come with muscle memory. As the brew level drops below the surface of the brew bed and you can see dry coffee grounds, pour again. Another 150 grams. So that'll take us up to 400 grams. Now this 40 grams of coffee, 670 grams of water recipe is going to yield us 2 generous cups of coffee, more or less. If you're brewing less, then you can cut that recipe in half and just say use 20 grams of coffee and something like 350 grams of water. If you're brewing more, you can scale up to a larger brewer, add a little bit more coffee, and just work off of that 1 to 16.7 ratio. I'm ready for another pour here. First pouring into the middle, letting the water level come up towards the surface of the grounds, and then moving out in a circle. Coming up to 550 grams with our 4th pour. And as this brews, as the water percolates through the coffee bed, take a look at our brew bed. As it settles out, it's fairly even here. We want as close to a flat surface as we can. That tells us that there's even or fairly even dispersion of water throughout the coffee bed. And now I'm making my final pour. I'm going to go all the way up to 670. And once you see the brew bed start to reveal dry grounds again, you're going to lift it off, set that aside, and you've got a pot of coffee ready to drink.